Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Language, Episode 6, Magandang Hapon. It is afternoon here, so I hope you guys are having a great day. As you can see, it's just me today. My partner in crime decided not to join us because the topic I'm going to talk about is something he hasn't really utilized much. So we thought today could be just a little bit of a one-on-one conversation, a deep dive into sort of how you would use AI for language. So, a few episodes back, I touched on how I use AI for my language learning with my Tagalog lessons. And when we were on our trip last week, which I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog. So, when we were on our trip last week, one of my husband's coworkers, this was a business trip for both of us. One of his coworkers mentioned that he was using a particular AI model for language learning. And it got me thinking about how much is out there that we probably don't even know about. So I thought it would be helpful to do an episode today where I kind of dive into what's available as far as AI and, give you some different, I guess, offers, options, and then you guys can kind of decide, if it's something that you would be interested in, then you can look into it. It's not a paid partnership. I'm not sponsored by anybody. In fact, I didn't even know about most of these before I did the research into this episode. So, you know, um, AI has changed a lot in the past 2 years. So, we know that AI has actually been around for like, what, 10, 15 years now, but it's really in the last few years that it became usable for the everyday person and affordable for the everyday person. And in the last 2 years in particular, we've seen tons of changes, to all sorts of areas to include language. And we're going to continue to see that. I think I heard a podcaster the other day say that we've made a year's worth of, I guess, like technology advances in a week based on how not quickly they used to work before and how quickly they work now. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and we've definitely seen that with AI. So for language specifically, we see that the AI apps can do things like tutoring sessions, they can generate custom content, and there's real time pronunciation feedback, which I think is really important because, as we had mentioned in a previous episode, my husband and I do time blocks. So he's learning Spanish, I'm learning Tagalog, and we'll break up the day and do like 4 hours we only speak Tagalog, 4 hours we only speak Spanish. And because the vowels sound the same and the words are similar, sometimes I'll pronounce a Tagalog word like you would in Spanish. And so having him there to help me with that pronunciation is really useful. So having an app that can do that for you is really, really useful because then you don't have sort of the, I guess, embarrassment of having to talk to a real person, even though you still need to do that. But at least while you're learning and practicing, you can kind of do it with your AI model. And then you feel a little bit more confident when you actually go out to have those conversations. So the apps are going to continue to grow. And, my one warning that I'll give probably several times throughout this podcast is we never want to just use AI solely. There's always a need for a human being. So let's say you get an app, you pay the subscription, you're learning, you're going to travel to Italy. Why are you learning a language? It's to interact with a community, right? It's not to just interact with AI. So there's always going to be a human element in this. And so we want to keep that in mind. Similar to like instructors, teachers, there's a reason that we still need to keep those people employed, yet we can use AI as a supplemental tool to really help us. And let's say if you don't, maybe have the money to get a tutor or you're not in college, you don't really have a way to get access to language learning, this can help you as a tool to get you started. So let's get started. So the next, let's see, I believe the next 7 apps that I'm going to talk about are sort of rated the top platforms currently. This is as of late 2025. So keep in mind, there are many, many more. This is just the list of what some research and studies have, kind of put together in terms of, the best apps to date. And so I'll kind of read through what they offer. If there's a cost associated, I'll let you know what that is and how many languages are available. So they're in no particular order. The first one is Lengua. This one is Lengua, meaning Langua. This one is specifically for conversation. So they do have cloned voices. So if you've ever had like an AI video and you can definitely tell that it's not a human speaking, that's sort of what you can expect it to sound like. They have dialect selection. They have a feedback option, which is so important. And you'll see that as a recurring theme in these apps. They have spaced repetition and vocabulary integration, which vocabulary integration is so important. I know, as I'm learning my Tagalog vocab, it's great to just do memorization exercises, but at some point you want to know how that would sound in a sentence. How would a native use that particular vocab word, right? So this kind of helps you with that. This is a subscription model, and currently they have 23 languages. The second app is Speak, just like the word speak. This is for people that believe to learn a language you want to speak first. So there's sort of a divide in the language community where some people believe that you should learn a language as an adult, like a second, third, fourth, etc. language by, learning your alphabet, learning your vocab words, learning your grammar. And then other people that believe when you were born and you learned your native language, you learned to speak first. And then later you went to school to learn your vocab and your grammar and da 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 da, right? So this Speak is sort of in that second camp where people believe you should speak first and then you can learn all the rules and grammar and things like that later. This one has the most natural voice, has a 24/7 tutor available. They do have pronunciation scoring, which, as I mentioned before, that can really help you with your confidence so that when you are ready to speak out in public, you feel confident and ready. And then they have a mistake review option as well. This one is tiered by country, and they have currently 9 languages. Duolingo. I'm sure all of you have already heard of Duolingo. I've been waiting patiently. Actually, I haven't checked in the last few weeks, so I may be misspeaking here, but as far as I know, they don't yet have Tagalog, and I've been waiting for that. Now, this particular app that I'm talking about is Duolingo Max, so it's sort of that next level. This is for your gamified learners, and we had a lot of those in the Air Force. You have access to a video call with their AI bot. Lily is her name. You can do role playing, and it helps to explain answers. So you can explain your answers, and it kind of walks you through what you did good, what you did bad, etc. This one is $30 per month, and they have limited languages. So it's not super developed yet, but I think this is going to be a game changer for those gamified learners. We have TalkPal next. This is the budget option. This is only $10 a month, which I think is an amazing entry option for people. This helps you do role play, debate, and image description. And I love the image description. It's something that I didn't see in any of the other apps. That's not to say that they don't offer that, but just think about it when you're a kid, right? And you're learning how to talk and your mom's pointing to something like, oh, this is a flower, this is a globe, this is a microphone, right? And so it's like you're seeing the image and then you're associating the word with that image. And so this app allows you to do that. And I think that helps you learn a little bit quicker. As I mentioned, that one is $10 a month, and they have over 20 languages currently. The next one is Practica. This one is immersive. So think about people that just immerse themselves. They go to a country for 6 months, 3 months, whatever, and they just learn the language because they have to, right? This one has adjustable feedback. They have over 140 plus conversation topics, and they have animated avatars, which I think is really cool. Kind of makes me think about, for a while in language learning, this is like before we knew about AI and what it could do, we were developing like VR rooms where people could go and they could, let's say, prep for deployment, but we also used it for language, right? So like you could interact with avatars and talk to them in the language and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's way more advanced now. I think it sounds amazing. They have a 3-month minimum subscription, so you have to pay at least 3 months. And currently it's only available in English. They are working on other languages. So this would be really good for people that want to learn English. Memrise. This one I'm so excited about. It's something that I think I'm going to look into as well. This is for people that care about real world listening. So they have an AI coach, MemBot for private practice. This is something I was talking to our company about because I was like, how cool would it be to develop this, like, I called it a study buddy, right? And they would be with you through your language journey, and they would take in all the notes from your instructor, and then they would help her create, or him create, you know, whatever homework, build curriculum, etc. And then, they would be like your private practice coach. But apparently this already exists and it's within Memrise. They have free levels and then they have paid tiers. And this is available in many, many languages. So if I had to give a recommendation, again, it's not a paid sponsorship or anything like that, I would definitely nudge you towards Memrise. This one sounds amazing. And then finally, Hello Talk. This is more of a language exchange. Think about back in the day, you would do like pen pal letters. So this is sort of that, but with AI online in language. So you can do AI exchanged interactions. You can do they have built-in translations. They offer quite a bit. For me, this doesn't quite fit the bill, but I think this could be useful for some people. They do have a premium price and they are also available in many languages. So there are many more. Like I said, this is not an all-inclusive list, but sort of based on the research and just like community feedback, things like that, they are considered the best because they all offer feedback, which again, feedback is so important. They all offer some sort of vocabulary integration system. They all offer some sort of pronunciation help, scoring, etc., something to help you with your pronunciation. They all have sort of like a level scaffolding, which just means that if you're a very beginner, they're not going to start you too high and make you uncomfortable. Or let's say you're a little more advanced when you get into one of these apps, they're going to adjust based on your level. So you're not going to be too bored or feel too stressed. And then finally, dialect and accent options, which is so, so important. So in addition to these tools that are specific for language, there are also general purpose AI tools that you may already be paying for and using that can actually do language. This was such a surprise to me. So think about if you're already using like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, you could be missing out on a lot of features that they offer. And it could be something where you're already using it, you're already paying the paid subscription, you might as well access the language feature, as well. So let's first talk about ChatGPT. This is only going to be the paid version. If you're using the free version of ChatGPT, you won't get all of these offerings. So ChatGPT, they have an advanced voice mod, again, only for subscribers. They have nuanced intonation, which is really helpful, especially think about a language like Vietnamese, right? That would be really helpful. They have emotional expression. They have natural pauses, so they kind of teach you where in the sentence you would naturally pause in that language, which I really struggle with. When I'm reading in Tagalog, it's kind of like, I just want to get through the sentence. Think about when you're in school and you're having to read in front of the class and you're not like a great reader yet. And so you're just like, I just need to get through the sentence or this paragraph or whatever you're reading. You're not really taking the time to focus on like how to make it sound the best. So this kind of helps you with that. And then on-demand language switching, which I love because let's say you're in Europe and you're going country to country, this app could help you switch between Italian, Greek, German, whatever, right? Whatever language, Spanish, whatever you may encounter in Europe. They have 50 plus languages, which is phenomenal. They do have speed control, this is very helpful if you're doing a listening exercise to be able to rewind, of course, and re-listen, but also slow it down a little bit until you get comfortable, and then you can speed it back up to, normal speed. Accent adaptation, and then role playing. And I think the role playing is so important. It just kind of mimics like what Dexter talked about in a previous interview where he was with, the waiter at the Mexican restaurant, and they were kind of going back and forth ordering. So you could do all kind of different role plays and language depending on what you're learning at that time. Now, it does come with some limitations. In particular for ChatGPT, again, this is the paid level. It doesn't correct mistakes unless you ask it to. So you just have to remember to ask it to correct your mistakes. It can cut you off mid-sentence, especially in like longer sentences. It cannot deploy text and voice mode, which definitely is a limitation because there are other apps that certainly can do that. It could ask too many questions at once, which may overwhelm the learner. And sometimes it'll forget instructions, especially when you have like, as you're going through your chat or your AI model, whatever it may be, and you kind of have like a long thread going, it can start to forget what's at the top. So just to keep that in mind. Claude is the next one, which I downloaded last night. I'm very excited about this one. I'm actually using it to help me on a separate project, but I'm going to also use it for my language learning. And I'm also considering Gemini, which we'll go over in just a sec. So Claude is considered a patient, non-judgmental language tutor. There was an anthropologist that described Claude as infinitely patient, never makes me feel bad about my language skills, and gives me detailed help to sound more natural, and is willing to talk about almost anything. So I think that's kind of cool because I know nowadays a lot of people are using AI models for like therapy or just like as a business coach or whatever. So think about, you could put that in the language and you could be sort of killing two birds with one stone. Role playing, story generation, generating domain specific vocab. So think about at a restaurant, you're going to have vocabulary that's like helping you order, where's the restroom, different platters of food, etc. Whereas if you're at a zoo, your vocabulary is going to be very different. You're going to want to know animals. You're going to want to know, where's the gift shop. You're going to want to know where's the food, like those sort of things, right? Now, Claude can make errors, especially in less common languages, specifically in Tagalog, which makes me a little sad, but I know that will develop over time. Finally, we have Gemini. I know a lot of people are probably using Gemini as an offshoot to Google, which is just amazing. Again, Gemini is doing some incredible things. Google Gemini processes voice directly. So instead of going speech to text, they don't do that. They go voice to voice, which is really helpful because in particular, it helps if you are, let's say you're speaking in a language, but you don't know quite how to pronounce things. It will be able to understand you if your pronunciation isn't perfect. So that's a really good listening tool. It can generate texts. It can extract vocabulary, create gap fill exercises, and produce comprehension exercises or questions. There's also a Google Notebook, which is like a hidden gem that can do additional things. I didn't look into whether or not that's an additional cost. So maybe we can pop that in the notes. But so within Google Notebook, they generate podcast style audio discussions. And I love this because I'm a podcast listener. Obviously, you guys are listening to a podcast now. This is a way that you could generate a podcast or listen to podcasts and be able to go back and forth with questions about the podcast. It supports 50 languages and it's brilliant for vocab reinforcement. And it kind of lets you make your own podcast, which is really cool. This is considered a game changer for language learning. So you guys know me, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like to see what the research says. So I looked at a couple different, in particular, 2 different studies that were done recently. A 2025 systemic review of 21 empirical studies found that AI supported students outperformed their peers by 15 to 35%, specifically on assessments. The study showed that the students had greater engagement and greater satisfaction. So again, I just want to reemphasize this is using AI as a supplemental tool. Mixed methods, so think you have an instructor and you have an AI model, found a strong positive correlation between AI use and improved teaching/learning outcomes. So let's say you're an instructor or a teacher and you're using AI, but then you're also using, you have them read an article and then you also, let's say, have a guest speaker there. So you're using different types of learning models for the student. This particular research showed that that's really good. Research a narrative synthesis of, okay, so this is a separate study. So a narrative synthesis of 23 studies found that AI tools can effectively supplement teacher instruction, like we were kind of talking about, providing feedback, reducing anxiety, and supporting autonomous learning. So if you're an instructor, a teacher, a language, professional, and you want, let's say, help building curriculum or, putting together, let's say, exercises for your class, grading homework, even coming up with like one-on-one tutor ideas, things like that. This is something that AI can help with. And finally, longitudinal research shows students exposed to AI driven learning demonstrated enhanced content understanding and expanded vocab and increased confidence. So again, this is sort of that idea that the best way I can think about it is a few years back I was attending ACTFul. So this is if you any teachers are listening, you will be familiar. ACTFul is sort of an annual conference where a bunch of teachers get together. This could be college, this could be high school. A lot of vendors go to like sell their things at these conferences. And we were attending a session led by MIT, and they talked about AI. At the time, we knew what was coming, but we didn't specifically know how much it would be able to help. And a question was asked like, well, if we have AI, students are just going to cheat, right? They're just going to use the AI, they're going to cheat, and they're not going to really learn the language. And the MIT speaker said something that's always kind of stuck with me is that, back in the day, we didn't have calculators. Calculators were introduced, math teachers freaked out, similar to how these instructors were freaking out, right? And math teachers were like, oh my gosh, our students are never going to learn math. They're going to have this tool that does everything for them. Well, what they found is they did a study back then on the use of calculators, and they found that instructors that actually used calculators as a tool and allowed students to use them within like a construct, right? A limited construct, actually did so much better and were so much more confident with math than teachers that were afraid of calculators and didn't allow them in the class. So I thought that was so interesting because it really points to when these tools come out, let's not be afraid of them. Let's understand, obviously there's a risk with using AI, and there are studies being done to mitigate those sort of like climate exchanges that we're making. But, let's use the tools that we have to our advantage versus being scared of them, because AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So how can we use it to supplement what we're already doing? How can we use it to make our jobs easier? And how can we do it to make us better? Now, I want to end with some of the things that these last three models that I talked about, so ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, don't get right. So the first one is hallucinations. They can generate incorrect information, which I'm sure a lot of you who have dealt with AI understand, right? Sometimes it gets it wrong. And the reason for this is actually a design issue. So these models were built and rewarded when they were confident in their answers, not when they didn't know something. So let's say if a model didn't know something, it says, I don't know, it wouldn't be rewarded. But if it said, just gave any answer that was correct or incorrect, it would be rewarded. So that's the way the systems are built. So that is going to require some obviously system design, fixes in the future. Context memory issues. So they can lose their train of thought. We kind of talked about earlier, and this is ChatGPT in particular. Once your stream gets too long, you want to kind of restart it and make sure that you let it know to remember what you're doing so that it always remembers it. But once you're kind of too long in the tooth, I guess it can forget things. So just keep that in mind. Low resource languages have less resources online. Makes sense, right? So AI is going to need some time to catch up with that. And then finally, and again, just to foot stomp this, it is not a replacement for humans. So given all of this, I would love to know, one, is anyone using AI for language learning? If so, let me know. I would love to hear which model you like and why. Again, I just downloaded Claude last night, but I think I'm going to also do work with Gemini. They both seem really exciting. I think I'm going to wait for the initial apps that we talked about until they get a little bit more developed before I download one of those. But I would love to hear what you guys are using, what you like, what you don't like. And we'll make sure that we put in the notes all of these resources so that you guys have access to them. So with that, I will bid you adieu. I hope you guys have a fabulous week, a fabulous weekend. And since my partner's not here, we can't do our Get It Go. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And thanks, everyone. See you next time.